Okay. Morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Sophie's teaching. And in today's video, I would like to show you really cool part about being an early childhood teacher. That is how to write a learning story. And as we all know, like how to evaluate your teaching practice with children, and even no matter how old they are, it's always a really important to put all your teaching and the children's learning into appropriate like format. So in this way, we call it in New Zealand early childhood setting, we call it a learning story. So in the other countries, or for a little bit older kids, like in primary school, you probably call it assessment. So basically they are kind of like the same thing. You need to evaluate how children, or do a report about what's the strengths of these children, and then of this group of children or one child, and then what's the area that needed to be improved, and what's the recommendation. And I can show you this kid, but that's the school I used to work with before, and it's an international school with a totally different curricula, but we use the kind of like similar thing. As you can see, strength, areas for improvement, and teachers recommendation. And here comes the scores, because this is for primary school children. But for our early childhood setting, probably it's just like assessment of how the learning is happening. And let's save that part and directly go to the main topic of today. So I actually plan to do a whole series of about this topic, because it's such a when you want to extend it pre-service teachers teaching abilities about learning stories or doing assessment, actually that involves lots of time and experiences. So I would like to give more details of how to guide you to do this properly. And in New Zealand cultural context, as you all know, we start from our kalikia. All right. Kia ola te malino, kia whakapapa ponamu te moana. Hei hua lahi ma tato I te langine. Aloha atu, aloha mai. Tato ia tato katoa. Hui taike. May peace be widespread. May the sea be like a great stone, a pathway for us all this day. Let us show respect for each other, for one another, bind us all together. Thank you for coming to my channel, and let's start today's topic. Before I start, I always mention our New Zealand early childhood curriculum and Tifaliki. As you can see, it gets a little bit old, and lots of like notes. That means I used it a lot. And this document guided all the early childhood kaiko teachers, and to teach and to do the assessment, and involves even more like to their personal internal evaluation. And Tifaliki on the first page, as I always see, we need, that's the kind of like the philosophy Tifaliki or New Zealand early childhood would like to share with all the kaiko, all the teachers, to believe children are competent and confident learners and communicators. They are healthy in mind and body and spirit, secure in their sense of belonging, and in the knowledge that they make a valued contribution to the society, to this community. And it's like you have your personal philosophy as well, and this philosophy or the sense of value and your beliefs all guide your daily teaching practice with your group of children, and with the way you communicate with colleagues and final. So first, our main task is a support children's learning. So try to remember this is the part for the essence of how I write learning story for kids. And let's now move on to the first part. What is a learning story? And as I give a really brief introduction about what the learning stories may look like, and in this slide I would like to mention a really cool document called K2 OTP, and that's a whole series of booklet. I think there are 12 of them, and probably more than 12, 20. And as you can see, I printed them out. There are e-version on our website, Ministry of Education. And each one of the booklets focus on different topics. Let's say 12, the strength of Tifaliki well-being. That is mainly like learning stories may focused on how to support or promote children's well-being with this early childhood service. So this orange one you can see is about the strength of Tifaliki belonging. So how children feel a sense of belonging with the new learning environment. And even the older one, how could they gain? It's like there are a whole broad concept about belonging. It's not only limited to new children or new child to this early childhood center. So like for number 70, I think more than 12, 20. And it's about oral, visual, and written literacy. And that means within each one of these booklets, you can see how they see some exemplars about how to write this learning story. So I would like to explain them properly later. And you're welcome after I introduce this document to you, and please search this. And then as you can see, it has a PDF available to everyone. You don't need to log in to register any account. It's available to everyone. That's the best part about you visit the official website of each country. Like if I'm so curious about because I used to work in Australia, if I'm curious about what Australia's expectation towards the teachers teaching practice with children, and then I will search their website, and you can see all the documents and all the guidance within it. So that's the way our New Zealand would like the learning story look like in their center, in their service. So you may wondering, and what's the main part about it? I want to give you detail today, but I would like to give you a broad idea about what how many components you are supposed to include in appropriate learning story. As we all know, in New Zealand, there are 4 parts you must include in your learning story. Well, that's the way we call it a learning story instead of an interesting or really fun story. It's different. Interesting, it's like describe what is happening, what has happened, and that is really interesting. But learning story requires you to link to children's learning outcomes, or like back to a couple of years ago, when we call it dispositions. Especially in this document, you can see it's a little bit it has a little bit of age and history, so you can see it talks about the dispositions. That is mainly about if you think what is learning outcomes, we may see learning outcomes include like when you see a kid is really brave and really curious, passionate, kind, friendliness, experiment, inquisitive, all these adverbs describe their learning outcomes, or nouns describe their learning outcomes. But what's the learning happening here, and how to link it to this learning outcome, that's actually need you to process it, to gather information and process it. And these 4 parts give you the way of how to do it one by one. The first step is about the notice. As you can see, I explained over here, observing children's notice is about how the teacher observe children's exploration and see what's their learning interest and needs in with their daily teaching practice in this program. So like some children may be interested in drawing, like the learning story I wrote. One kid, he was interested in cutting papers and just cutting, random cutting, and but it felt like that's one day's observation. But through a whole period, like 1 or 2 weeks observation, you felt he always asked you to do some cutting, and that his interest, that his strengths and exploration, and recognize that requires you to link back to our Tifaliki, this document about this is a Maori version. It's about how you recognize or link it to the strengths explained in Tifaliki. Because in Tifaliki, there are 5 parts about the strengths: well-being, belonging, contribution, communication, exploration. If I'm a teacher, through my 2 weeks observation, I found that kid is interested. His interest makes me to link to exploration, to learn how to control his body. And you can see it here, says linking to 5 strands of Tifaliki, New Zealand early childhood curriculum. And next part, when you recognize that, oh, that's his that's the strengths, or that's the learning I can link the two, and then you gonna set up a teaching goal, trace back to the teaching goals, like I need to support his such as hand-eye coordination, and or I need to promote his 5 motor development. Here, next, the orange part comes to respond. And the respond, how will you respond? If you see, okay, he likes the cutting, okay, I will go get organized, organize a wide range of activities all about the cutting, like today cutting the rabbit, tonight, and the other day you cut about probably a Latin to respond to the festival. That's fine, but that's not appropriate respond. Because your teaching goal at the recognition, this part encourages you to promote children's physical development and learn how to control their body and how to use the scissors safely. So that means the respond requires you to set up activities that can support you to reach to this goal, and support you to help children to extend their abilities, not only interests. And that's the part makes a total difference. It's learning, not a fun or just a phenomenon or observation of kids learning. So here we go. It says, as these 2 parts I explained over here, you can see how you should do it. That's tricky because I used to learn with I used to, how to say that? Here comes the truth. I failed one of these this topic because when I started working with early childhood center, I was mainly used as a labor instead of a teacher appropriately. And they didn't introduce any of this document to me. And instead, every day is just like you do this and that, and without support my learning with them. So that was really inappropriate and unprofessional. And so I filled that paper, and then I need to receipt. Once I received, that was a really hard time for me to deal with. But once I over these years, and then when I look back, and then now I even need to support student teachers, and that encourages me to talk about this topic, and then avoid the student teacher go a wrong way. I would like to do my job properly, basically, and also I want to support their professional teaching practice at their early age of profession. Yeah, because that's my responsibility as well. And I tell you, this part, once I shared my feeling with you, that also should arouse your awareness of how important this respond part component matters to a learning story. If you respond in the wrong way, and then that means you didn't you fail to have a clear picture of what this planning really means to your job and to your career. And I will talk more about the response, so don't worry in these episodes. And the last part is evaluate. Evaluate, sometimes people may say, it's more like a reflect, and how your planning has been going for this kid or for this group of children, and how the kids enjoyed, how this kid how his learning has been, or her learning has been extended. And remember, at this part, it has different because it's a learning story. It's not a whole lot of paper or you need to do for your uni. So that paper required me to write 3,000 words, but learning story is way much shorter. So that means there's 3 points you could make a choice of which one you would like to focus on. Otherwise, your passage, your learning story is gonna be so huge, so long, and the parents sometimes may neglect that part. So be realistic and be concise, and also mean something. You can see at this part, I would like to reflect how my teaching practice has been doing for these kids, for this group of children, or emphasize. Sometimes you can emphasize your, how to say, through over these 2 months, and I really I really value how your sense of curiosity and guided or how your sense of belonging has been nurtured with us. I admire and I would like to give you an example later about which part I use to end the learning story. And sometimes you can write what's next, and the main point is don't forget to include the children and the finals voice in your learning story. And at the third part, there are also some meanings, exemplars, based on the time. And I have to stop here, and sorry to rush up a little bit, because that's the point I really want to mention before I go to work in the morning. And so some of my student teacher can see this and can have a brief idea about what learning story I expect to see from them. And I will definitely tonight when I come back, I will share more. And thank you for watching, and time to go to work, and have a lovely day, and I will see you tonight. See you. Bye bye. Thank you.